Hello everyone, welcome to today's session on Unleash the Power of GenAI, Generate Growth and Innovation with Data. My name is Akanksha Sheoran. I am Principal Data Lead at AWS for UK Public Sector. Now, generative AI has taken the world by storm. I'm sure all of you have heard about applications like ChatGPT, and it just shows how powerful the latest machine learning modules have become. The true power of generative AI goes beyond a search engine or a chatbot or, a chat GPT. It will essentially, transform how companies or organization operate or will operate in future. Just to share some perspective here, Goldman Sachs forecasted a 7 trillion increase in global GDP. They also predict that Gen AI has lifted the productivity growth by 1.5% over a 10 periods of time. This is just a small glimpse of potential of Gen AI. Now, I've worked with a lot of customers, enterprise customers, public sector customers, and I think it is safe to say that everyone acknowledges the power of Gen AI and they are comfortable in thinking big with Gen AI, or they are actually making plans how Gen AI can be utilized in their organization. But what I find is nearly everyone I speak with focuses on foundation models and LLM more broadly. So the iceberg that you see, the tip of the iceberg is the Gen AI application, right? There is more under the glacier. There is more that meets the eye at the first glance, right? And this is like my favorite slide. So, what enables you to drive the value of Gen AI? Now, Gen AI applications are still applications, and like any other application, you need a database underneath it. So you eventually need an operational database to support your user experience and your Gen AI applications. So if you see on the slides on the right, you need a storage layer, you need a database layer that will have purpose-built databases like DocumentDB, GraphDB, vector-enabled databases, right? And then there is data integrations. You need the source of your data, whether the data is going to come in batches or via streamlining, or you set up your pipelines to keep up with data change. Finally, you also have to consider governance, process to ensure data quality, privacy, security, right? So while it is very tempting to think about generative AI at a surface level or as a tip of the iceberg, really the data you need to nail down effectively and use modern data architecture, right? And data is, I could say, a foundation module of building your GenAI application. And in future slides, in upcoming slides, we're going to talk more about, how data is more important, right? Next slide, yeah. Another data point that we have is from a McKinsey report. And, there's a link to that report that you can see. Companies that have not yet found ways to effectively harmonize and provide access to their data, unable to fine tune their generative AI, and which will eventually, they won't be able to use Gen AI for their customers or will not be able to unlock full potential of Gen AI, right? To do this, this requires a very clear data and infrastructure strategy. Now, why does data matter so much? I've been talking about data in like few slides now, right? So let's see why data matters a lot. Now, when you want to build your Gen AI application, there are unique to your business needs and unique for your customer base, right? Your data is your differentiator, as the name suggests in the slide. The data is your key differentiator. And let me give you more thoughts on this, right? Now, when you think about it, every company has access to some foundation models, right? Some of them are easily available in the marketplace. Some of them are easily available in GitHub that you can download and use it, right? But the companies will be successful if they build the GenAI application with real business data or business value data, that will help them to build a amazing GenAI application which caters their customer history, their needs, their utilization pattern, and whatnot, right? So data is the difference between the generic GenAI application and those that know your business and your customer deeply. And I've seen it with many customers where they have taken on the shelf foundation modules and not really taken care about data, and eventually they don't see much benefit of those applications now, right? Whereas I've seen organizations who work backwards from their data, build the GenAI application, or even if they take off the shelf GenAI application, they actually embed it with their own business data, and that really helps them to make it serve their customer in a better way, right? Now, using data for GenAI actually doesn't mean that you have to go and build your own model, right? So it doesn't mean that, as I said, right? Now, while some companies will build, and there are a couple of type of companies. So there could be one organization that will build and train their own large language modules with vast amount of data, and many will use their organizational data to fine tune their foundation models for their unique business use case or their unique needs, right? But underlying all of this, the key message is the data is your differentiator. Now, in a recent surveys with CDOs, we found that 93% of CDOs said that the importance of the data strategy and its role in making generative AI custom to their business is one of the most important things that they can do, right? And on the right hand side, 37% of CDOs agreed that lack of the right data foundation or a data strategy was one of the top challenges to implement generative AI. So now data foundation matters for generative AI because the access to high quality data about your organization and your customer improves the accuracy and reliability of these Gen AI modules and their responses as well. Now, this is another example. Now, if you, I would like to share an example of an online travel agency here, and they want to generate personalized travel itinerary. So when you want to do this personalized itinerary, what you would like to use as an organization is your customer profile data in your databases. And based on this data, you would like to tailor the recommendation based on things like past trips, history, travel preferences, hotel preferences, preferences of family members, age of the family members, and things like that, right? So what you will do is you will marry that data with the other company details like flight details, hotel inventory, promotions, and things like that. So if you look at this, there are a couple of data points that you're using. There are two kind of different data sets that you're using. So again, it is very important, where is this data set residing and how easily can you access it. The more easily you can access it and secure it, the more easy your response is going to generate the personalized travel itinerary. Now, there's another example here we have. Now, I've been talking about this powerful capabilities of GenAI to create content, right? But to make this content, relevant to your organization, you would definitely like to customize it, and customize it with things like your own brand logo, your own brand guidebook, what were your previous ad, content from your data lake, as well as company data like real-time inventory of your transactional database and so forth, right? So you eventually are going to use the Gen AI, but you're underusing the data from all your different traditional or transactional databases as well. Now, to get the high quality data for Gen AI, you need a strong data foundation, right? In fact, like I'm sure many of you who are listening to me would have already spoken or would have had a data strategy, in your organization. That's a different thing whether you're working towards it or you're running into some issues with it, but we can definitely help you with that process, right? But GenAI makes this data foundation even more critical than ever because your data is your differentiator, right? I've met so many organizations that were not ready to adopt cloud. They were not thinking about data strategy, but now with GenAI, it is becoming more and more critical for them to put this as a priority, right? So your data has to be up to date, complete, accurate, discoverable, and available, right? So that is like your key things for your um, data strategy. Now, these are a couple of modules for GenAI that we have. Obviously, we have purpose-built LLM, then we have fine-tuning of LLM, and then we have RAG, right? And for the purpose of this presentation, I'll pick up the RAG use case and work towards it. Now, with RAG, the external data used to augment your prompts can come from multiple data sources. It could include documents, different repositories, databases, APIs, right? And RAG helps the module to adjust its output with data retrieved as and when needed so that it can prompt you with right information. So this is just a quick overview of what RAG is. And this is a very high level reference architecture for RAG, right? Now, you'll notice two sides to the story. On the left-hand side, you have processes that occurs in the end user critical path. That is, the end user interacts with application and is waiting for a response. And on the right hand side are the processes that happens behind the scene, right? Like ingestion from data sources, batch and stream processing, data integration with pipelines. So you need this for populating your vector databases and various enterprise databases or data warehouses. Now notice the data governance and data warehouse and vector data store. These are very critical, right? And what I am seeing and what most and more customers are doing is they are modernizing their entire infrastructure by moving them to the cloud. And this includes relational databases, non-relational databases, right? And let's talk more about the vector data store that is there in the screen, right? Before we go there, let's look at this critical path for the end user here. Right now, this is again a set of use case, set of scenario that we have. I don't have animation right now, but so I'll go by the numbers on the screen here. So yeah. The first one is, the end user interacts with GenAI application and typically by posing a question. And this is just to give you a example of what happens underneath, right? So an end user interacts with the GenAI application is number one. The second is the application loads the relevant prompt template. And you can create your own templates based on different rules that you have and things like that. Then there is the number three is that the question posed by the user, right? It could be a new question or it could be an ongoing conversation, right? So anyways, in that case, what we have to do is we have to look into the history data store to allow the user to pick up where they left off. Let's say if this is in between the conversation, and this is a very good example when you go online and you go for like chat option or you go for online help option, right? This is a critical workflow for that. So anyways, application needs to pick up where the customer lost. The application will need to pull that state into the right context, right? What was the context you were asking that question? Number four is the application need to query for profile or any other situational data, right? And this typically would come out of like a data store. For example, if you're returning something, right, it would go back to your historical data store and say, when did you purchase this and details of the order and all of that, right? Number five is it tokenizes the original question. So, to get a set of embeddings from the LLM. And number six, what happens is with those questions embedding, it performs a similar search in the vector data store. This is using some form of algorithm which basically tells you the nearest neighbor search for the algorithm, right? And it searches, that along with some context, right? So it basically creates its algorithm to search it. Number 7 is once all that data is synthesized into a prompt, it is then sent to LLM to get a response, right? And number 8 is, it updates the conversation state and history according to the new interaction. And number 9 is finally is the response that you see on the screen, like. So, if you really dive deep, I've used data stores and, retrieving the historical information and all of that, right? If you dive deep, different layers and see what data services you should all consider for these architectural prompts, right? And one of this is vector databases. So let me go to the next slide and talk more about what is a vector data store, right? Perfect. Now, vector embeddings basically it represents word and phrases and entities as numerical vectors in a multi-dimensional space. Now, in this example that you see, the words or items with similar meanings are mapped closer to each other in this space. This kind of representation or this kind of semantic relationship actually enables GenAI to understand similarities and relationship between words and entities, right? So, for example, like if you say sandals, high heels, color, comfort, fit, all of these are similar things, and this will help them to kind of do that. Next slide. Okay, now vector embeddings are essentially numerical representation of your audio or video data, right? While humans can understand the meaning of all these words, right? But machine cannot, and machine will only understand numbers. So do that to make them understand that we have to translate them into format that is suitable for machine learning or for the GenAI application, right? And this is essentially what is called like vector embeddings, right? This is a very good example of vector embedding. So now let's assume by assigning numbers to different words, we can view vectors in a multi-dimensional space, as I said, right? And then you can measure the distance between them. For instance, if you look at this graph, cat is closer to kitten, whereas dog is closer to puppy. So now by comparing these embeddings in this way, the GenAI module, will produce more relevant and contextual responses for the question that was asked or for a matching word, right? So this is how, whole vector, assignment works basically. Another example, just to give you more insight, this is called a superpower semantic search for use cases, like rich media search or for product recommendations. So when you go on the websites and you get some product recommendations based on your previous purchase history or what have you typed in or what have you seen in that specific portal and things like that, right? Now in this scenario and in this screenshot that you see on the screen, you can see that semantic search greatly enhances the accuracy of the output of the query, right? Like one of the things that you say is bright color golf shoes, right? So that is like very, very specific, and that is how attaching vectors and numbers to the search query makes it very, very precise in scenarios like this, right? Okay. So, most of our customers, I've spoken about vectors, and now let's talk about how does this vector and data work together, right? Now, many of our customers are using vectors for their GenAI application. And one of the feedbacks that we have got from them is their existing databases should have vector enabled. And it will make them more confident. It will meet the requirements of being scalable, available, and provide durability, storage, and high compute, right? And what we have done is we have made sure that when your vector and business data are stored in the same place, your application will run faster. Because when they are in the same place, there is no need or no, you don't have to worry about data sync or data movement and data silos at all. So we store our vector and database together, and that is why we have enabled vector searches across our multiple services that you see. We have Amazon OpenSearch, we have Aurora Postgres, we have RDS Postgres, Neptune, DocumentDB, and DynamoDB also has zero ETL for faster retrieval. So this is our famous flywheel. We start off with unify, where you make sure that you break down your data silos, you innovate by building new GenAI application, and you modernize your data infrastructure. Now the beauty about this flywheel is you can essentially start off your data modernization or data strategy from anywhere, right? Like I've met customers who would say, I'm going to start off with innovate, where I'm going to innovate Gen AI application, work on my LLMs and work on my use cases, and then go to the modernizing your data or infrastructure, and then think about not having data silos or making more use of those data, and then flywheel goes. Where I have come across customers who would say, yes, we would like to go to cloud first, have a modern data structure, infrastructure on the cloud, have a great data strategy, utilize all the benefit of the cloud, and then go in the flywheel and then innovate and all of that. So the beauty of this flywheel is, we can start off from anywhere, and then once you are in the flywheel, it will just power itself and goes from there, right? Also, this whole flywheel avoids the risk of getting locked into a proprietary format. It will help you break down data silos and empower your team to build GenAI applications. Building a data foundation to fuel your generative AI application. AWS provides a wide variety of services, which are comprehensive services for each use. We have integrated with vector databases, zero ETL, so you can easily connect to your different data stores, right? If you're already in cloud and using any of your services, we have zero ETL in most of our services that will easily help you to connect and access your data all around. And then we have some very good data governance as well available to have secure your data in the cloud, and also utilize some policies or user access as well. So we have a lot of services aligned to that as well. Now, where we can help, there are a couple of places where we can help. You can obviously go to our Generative AI Innovation Center page and request for a conversation, or if you're already one of our customers, then reach out to your respective account team. But there are a few ways we can help you. Is about getting buy-in from your exec on data strategy. The next one is we can help your organization to envision, data to drive some of the business outcome, maybe do a POC, maybe do a first pilot. And then we also have options to basically modernize your data foundation as well. So there are a couple of ways where we can help you, right? And then reach out to AWS Generative AI Innovation Center to help you more. These are some two very good workshops. This is a very technical dive deep workshop. So if you are interested to learn more, get your hands dirty, scan the code, register for these amazing workshops, and you go from there. So this is my last slide. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today's session, and have a great day. Thank you.